Greetings, gatekeepers! I'm Celiras. Did you miss me? I'm finally going to talk about gameplay as promised a while ago. Sorry for the delays, as usual, I've got the game to take care of first. You see, making videos takes precious time from the development, and I think it's better we release a new alpha version sooner than just sitting here and talking about future plans and not progressing much. That being said, let's talk about future plans, because it's been a while. We have many separate systems already in place that I'm going to mention in this video, and some of them are almost finished. However, not everything is. So take this video as more of an insight into the design document rather than a review of what's there already. And while I don't have much video material to show, I will be just using graphs and sketches to demonstrate things. Planes of Existence is a game about many things, but the goal of all gameplay elements can be narrowed down to progressing forward and gaining knowledge. Every aspect of player progression is tracked in what we call the knowledge tree. You can think about it as a list of tech trees. By progressing through each node, it will be given access to new abilities, crafting recipes, other species to play as, customization options, new maps and so on. However, it's a bit unique. To unlock nodes, they don't require any currency. We don't have things like experience or skill points. Instead, each node is like a mini challenge, a quest of sorts, that requires players to do something relevant to gain that knowledge. It can require things like doing some field research, reaching a location, helping an NPC, gathering, etc. Kinda like achievements that actually affect gameplay. There will be a variety of trees categorized by the fields of study, such as various technologies and cultures different races possess, or common knowledge, like biology. By the way, new knowledge trees can be easily modded in, and we will be adding new ones as the game progresses development, adding new content players can earn. So without any further ado, let's talk about the means of unlocking said knowledge, starting with exploration, which is a simple yet necessary part of any game. We've spent a great chunk of time prototyping the movement system with a test character, experimenting with this and that, throwing things away. I trashed over 150 different animations trying to make it look and feel just right. Thankfully, all those animations were done in a very fast way, so it's not that much time lost on prototyping. And after I make a couple new final character models, I will start working on animations that are much nicer, of course. Walking, running, jumping, pulling up ledges, crawling, flying, sliding. Movement has to be fun and responsive, without this floaty feel and noticeable foot sliding. The game obviously already has a movement system, but it's very limited, so we decided to seriously approach this and redo it completely. Because a robust movement system enables great freedom not only for players, but it also opens up new ways of level design. Now we will be able to freely create platforming elements of various kinds, ranging from jumping puzzles to flying challenges, which should be a great supplement to other exploration aspects like finding materials and food, digging in caves and dungeons, solving puzzles. And you know, the usual stuff, just tailored specifically for our setting. And if that's not enough, there's always place for minigames and zone-specific activities where players can cooperate or compete between each other for rewards and new knowledge. Speaking of competition, we should talk about the combat system. Surely, on the surface, that's like what every game's about, nothing new or original here. However, in every game, it's a very important aspect. Just first, let me get this out of the way. Here you don't grind your XP on killing other poor innocent creatures that want to just live their lives, which is something you have to do in many other games. In Planes of Existence, you can always be nice and peaceful with other fellow creatures, but we still need a villain of some sort, you know, the basic rules of storytelling. What we have is not a villain though. There is an automated system on the planes, fundamental elementals, or just simply fundamentals. The name might change though. Those things are not sentient, it's just how nature works here. While providing necessary elements for the ecosystem like oxygen, water and heat, they also tend to create natural disasters that if their presence becomes too powerful. That's why many creatures who live there developed weapons to deal with this threat that is constantly encroaching on their population. This system also gives various species incentive to keep evolving, and while the laws of natural selection can be harsh, at least it keeps them fit and beautiful and makes sure they don't devolve into, I don't know, slugs. But more about that in the upcoming lore posts on Patreon. And who knows, maybe even videos someday. I haven't posted anything about the world in a while, and I'm sorry, I will try to fix that. What's important to say in this video is how the combat works. At any point, you can switch to the combat mode, your character deploys their weapons and changes their stance. And instead of controlling the camera, mouse or right analog stick controls the aiming direction, while the camera automatically takes the appropriate angles and locks onto enemies. Despite that we have dragon and dinosaur races, our game is mostly focused on using ranged weapons and dodging projectiles. Rockets or fireballs, anything can happen. Weapons in this world are very high-tech and powerful, so instead of making bloody mess all the time when they hit someone, all creatures are equipped with special shield technology that provides familiar to everyone health and energy bar system. When the health, or actually shield charge, is depleted, creatures go to a down state. You can revive them or do things to them that they might not be happy to experience, or just even finish them off. Finishing moves can vary. You can just politely force the downed creature to respawn by teleporting their body away. Or perhaps feast on their guts. However, that's not allowed if gore is disabled on the server or in the settings for local games. The fundamentals don't have shields, and therefore they're just destroyed when health depletes, releasing their energy and matter that can be salvaged and used by players for gaining new knowledge and crafting. Loot is also there, because that's fun, and it would be cruel not to include it. Which is a nice segue into our next topic, interaction with items and the world around us. Having energy shields and shoulder-mounted lasers on dragons might not leave an impression of a realistic game, but stay with me on this one, it's perfectly explained within the lore of this unusual setting. When I said realistic, I meant that despite advanced alien technology everyone uses there, the world still has the laws of physics that we all know and love. And with that mindset, we've been designing some very simplified simulation of things like temperature, ambient pressure, and some other conditions. Why did we do that? Well, it's just another way to solve a common problem games deal with. Let's take a generic example, like smelting iron ore. Nowadays, every gamer knows that smelting ore will produce an ingot when put into some kind of furnace. How is it done? Simple. The furnace has a recipe that tells if ore item is inside, transform it into an ingot, maybe consume some fuel along the way. The way we decided to approach this is a bit different. Instead of adding some recipes into so-called crafting stations, we just state that iron ore, when heated to 1,500 degrees, liquefies, and then, when cooled, solidifies. And the ways of changing temperature can be different. Perhaps cooking it in a furnace indeed. Or maybe you melt it by blowing a flamethrower on it, maybe some sort of a thermal explosion, or maybe just placing something very hot near it. With this approach, the result is the same, yes, but means of achieving this result can vary, allowing for some player improvisation. It also makes items to be a part of the world, rather than just dummy objects that do a few specific scripted things. Instead of that, items have various events defining what happens when certain conditions are met, not just the temperature. One more thing items could not be done in a traditional way is food, which brings us to the next aspect of the gameplay, simulation of life. The game will have its fair share of survival elements. However, unlike such games, 15 minutes without food isn't going to kill you. If your character isn't fortunate enough to be starving, which would take a long time actually, instead of decreasing health and slowly killing your creature, it would apply various debuffs that make it harder to play, that is, until the proper nutrition is received again. Eating is not everything, of course. Your creature probably doesn't have a wormhole in their belly, so occasionally you'd need to go to toilet, in a controlled fashion of course. Also, you'll need to make sure that it's not too hot or cold for your creature. Every species have their comfortable temperature thresholds. And there's a few other things that your creature realistically needs, like air to breathe. Some levels pose challenges for players to overcome either by changing their creature's anatomy, choosing another species, or developing technological tricks to get into previously unreachable areas. But let's go back to the food topic. You see, different creature species have different diets, and the nutrition they receive from the same item can vary a lot. Hell, some creatures can even consider things as food what others don't. What if there was a rock-eating species? It doesn't make sense to also categorize rocks as food items for everyone else. It also doesn't make sense to hard-code a list of eatable items per species, because new items and species can be easily modded in, making it very hard to create compatible mods. So to solve this problem, we're going to give players ability to eat anything, as long as it fits into the throat of your creature. And then, when it's inside your fella's belly, it's up to the organism to simulate the digestion and possible effects from this food, which are also varied. One plant can be poisonous for one herbivore, while healthy for another one. It's a fairly complex system, and not something that I exactly encountered before in games, mostly because you play as a human everywhere, so developers don't even need to think about it. But when you have dozens of creatures from various planets, you need a robust system, and especially if this system needs to also support content that you have no idea about. I'm talking about community-made mods. Of course, organical creatures are not only about processing food and making sure that they are comfortable in the environment. Let me start with a prelude so you better understand my point of view. In games, your only interactions with other players and NPCs are limited to 2, maximum 3 things. If it's a friendly NPC, you can talk to them. If it's a hostile NPC, you most likely only can kill them. Creatures and animals do not talk, and therefore your only possible interaction with them is on the tip of your sword or a gun. Maybe there's riding or taming thrown in occasionally, and yet again, you tame your creatures mostly only to help you attack other creatures, and that's about it. Surely, most action games are murder simulators of various kinds, and that can be cool in some cases. But in the design of our game, first of all, I want to show the social aspects every alive beings share. In planes of existence, there is no separation on animal and sentient creatures. Everyone is considered equal, and despite varied brain complexity, everyone can communicate in some form or another. And in the worst case, everyone can fall back to the language everyone understands, the body language. Instead of having only one option to kill creatures that look different from you, you can always go a peaceful route, show yourself as a friendly being, give presents, charm, hug, scratch and lick each other. Everything to build a relationship over time. Nonetheless, if you prefer being aggressive and attack everybody on sight, they will remember that even if you kill them. Nobody can die forever in this universe, and when they get themselves a new body, they most likely won't have any warm feelings towards you. Being nice might seem as the best way to go, but what if you need some creature's bones as a crafting ingredient? Just like it's usually the case in most other games. What if you want to craft something like that to progress through some specific branch in the knowledge tree? Any part of the knowledge tree is optional to complete. It's always intended to give a choice to players who can follow their own morals and pursue their goals. The knowledge tree is not about completing everything in it, it's about picking a path of personal evolution. There's a lot of contrast in this world, so let's look at another extreme as opposed from killing: love. Relationships with NPC creatures, and when role-playing it with other players, can get to the romantic level. We are not another developer who would shy away from this topic, despite that it's bound to create some controversies. The world of the game is located on another plane of existence from the disputes of human society. It's about nature and its beauty as it is, without sexualization or hard censorship. Mating rituals, such as courtship displays or romantic kisses, as well as mating process itself, is a part of life of every species. Thus, no matter what, we can't just not include it in a game that tries to simulate life. And while male and female mating would lead to, as expected, eventually creating new life, true mutual love should not have any limits and boundaries. Thus, same-gender and interspecies relationships are also possible. However, as with any other elements of the game, such as combat or crafting, it can be skipped completely or disabled in the settings of private hosted servers. Before we move on to another topic, to make it clear for everyone, I have to say it like that, so excuse me for my words. This is not a pornography game. The fact that mating is realistically animated doesn't make it a necessary gameplay feature, and it also doesn't make it necessary for players to look how exactly that happens. In fact, for the convenience of many players, there will be a pixelated filter covering the sexual action if it happens. And I'm well aware that there's another type of audience watching this video who wouldn't like having any visibility abstractions like that. So in that case, pixels can be removed by a simple unofficial mod revealing what's under them. Pixels will not cover the realistic nudity creatures have though, because it's not considered sexual. Despite if you want to see it or not, having an orifice under your creature's tail is as important and necessary for life as having a mouth. One without another doesn't make sense to have. Artists don't make mouthless creatures unless it's specifically required, right? And this shouldn't be so different as well. Though, if it comes to adding playable robot and plant races later on, there might be such special requirements, as they would possess a completely different anatomy. In any case, your creature can always wear some clothing if you're not a fan of running around naked. And just to warn you, not every alien culture has the concept of hiding the essential areas of their bodies, as they might just consider themselves beautiful as they are. Clothes are usually invented to raise comfort, add utility, and protect the body. But they are not only inventions worth mentioning. Every playable species are smart enough to have some kind of craft and technology, intricate cultures, and advanced methods passing their knowledge and sharing their experience. Aside from unlocking genetic information, which adds options to customize their appearance with, players can also learn about society of various races and also culture-specific crafting in the knowledge tree. Each species' biology, culture, and technology are unique and rewarding enough to keep hunting for the new discoveries and ultimately becoming a master of all available knowledge. It definitely was a lot to talk about, but I'm happy to keep all the design decisions visible for everyone. At this moment, we're making the core systems that will serve as platforms powering all the future content that we will be making. They will also support any kind of user-created mods. And despite that this work isn't necessarily presentable just yet, we're having some good progress on the base code. We are approaching this moment when we finally can start adding juicy gameplay content and graphical eye candy. But please don't expect every species or every level to come out at the same time. If you're concerned, let me assure you that the game is not overly ambitious and is very much possible to finish. There is a lot of sacrificed, thrown away ideas in order to keep the systems simple enough and to speed up the development by having to create less and do more with it. In fact, every feature I just talked about was derived from a much more complex idea, be it item interaction or combat. In the next pre-alpha, you can notice how much we changed the whole weapon and aiming system from the previous version, just to keep things simplified and fun. Despite that we're actively working on it, it's just 2 of us for the most part, and you can imagine a project like that will take some years to complete. Thankfully, early access is not something uncommon these days, making it possible to gradually release updates as the development goes along. If you would like to help us achieve the goals that I outlined in great detail in this video, I would be more than happy to talk to you. The project could use some help of additional people, like designers, 2D or 3D artists, animators, and programmers who are familiar with Unreal Engine 4, C++ or its blueprint code. You can send me a message or notify me in the comments just about anywhere I'm around. I'm also on Twitter @Salireth, which is also a very easy way to get in touch, if you can spell that right, that is. And by the way, I'm happy to talk to just about anyone, always. Huge thank you for all the supporters on Patreon. You guys are truly amazing. Supporting the project on Patreon is also a great way to directly help the development of the game and influence it directly with your ideas and suggestions. If you want to join our Patreon, you can click the link right on screen or in description down below. There was a change in the rewards relatively recently, and at the moment I'm collecting lists for those rewards, also getting feedback on what customization options some of the high-tier patrons want to have. And when the time comes to the content development, it's all going to be added into the game. So if you are a patron, don't forget to send me a message with information on your rewards so I can write it down, because I need to know what exactly you'd like to leave for yourself and other players to find in the game. Thank you for watching, I'm Salireth, and I wish you to have fun exploring your realities.